Join us for a deep dive into EMR.
Everything you need to know about the method that is revolutionizing the world of trauma.
Ever feel like anxiety's got you? Like it's kind of shrink-wrapping your world a little more each day?
It can be so limiting.
Well, that's what we're diving into today, exploring eye movement release, EMR.
EMR.
Through one man's story, really.
Yeah.
And I think it'll resonate with a lot of people out there.
Totally.
Because our case study, 𝒂𝒊, you'd been there, tried everything, CBT,
Right.
exposure therapy, the whole 9 yards. But anxiety, especially around heights, just kept him feeling, I don't know, like weighed down.
Yeah, and that's where EMR, it kind of carves its own path. Because it's not about, dissecting the past with words. It's about shifting those emotional reactions without reliving all the details. Which I think for some people listening, if talk therapy has felt a bit too intense, this could be really interesting.
So break it down for me. EMR, it uses eye movements. How does that even work?
Yeah. Okay, so picture this. Think of your brain like a highway.
Okay.
Now when we go through something tough, it's like a traffic jam up there.
I got you.
EMR, with these guided eye movements, it's like we're creating a detour.
So you're basically saying it gets those emotions flowing smoothly again?
Exactly. This bilateral stimulation, that back and forth, it actually calms the amygdala, that part of the brain that sets off the, oh no, run alarms.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. But also kind of hard to wrap my head around. Like, I get the traffic thing, but how does moving my eyes actually make that happen?
Well, the brain, it's a mysterious place, right? But studies suggest that this back and forth, it taps into our natural healing abilities. Think about it. When we're stressed, we rub our eyes, look away, maybe even shake our heads a bit. It's like these instinctive ways to kind of self-soothe, to reset. EMR is sort of like a structured version of that.
Okay, like giving your brain a nudge in the right direction.
Yeah.
So how do you all feel about this whole eye movement thing? I'm guessing he was pretty skeptical at first.
Oh, totally. Like many of us, he probably thought, dealing with this stuff, gotta talk it to death.
Yeah.
So the idea of therapy that wasn't about digging into every detail of his past. Let's just say he was intrigued, but definitely cautious.
And that's fair, to be honest. And this is where 𝒂𝒊's story takes a really fascinating turn because he starts experiencing these significant changes. But before we get into that, I got to know more about this unspoken release thing you mentioned earlier.
It's really something. You've all described it, this wave of emotion just kind of welling up almost out of nowhere during a session.
Really?
But then instead of it, crashing down like it usually would, it just faded, like a wave gently breaking on the shore.
Wow, that's a powerful image. That's so different from how he usually experienced anxiety, huh?
Completely. And it really gets to the core of what makes EMR so fascinating. It's not about, erasing those memories. It's about changing how they make you feel. The therapist is like a guide, right? Helping things along. But the actual work, the untangling, it happens within.
Yeah, it makes sense. You're not trying to rewrite the past. You're just learning how to handle those feelings it brings up. So did he ever get to a point where he could ride an elevator without freaking out?
Now that is where it gets interesting. Remember how we talked about the elevator?
Yeah, the one he'd been avoiding.
Right. It became this kind of like a measuring stick in his therapy.
Okay, so what was it like, facing that elevator after starting EMR?
All right. So picture this. He's standing there, doors are about to close. And yeah, there's still some anxiety. He feels it. It's familiar, but quieter somehow.
Not the full-on panic attack.
Exactly. He described it as like he knew it was there, but it wasn't so intense. Like he could feel the discomfort, but it wasn't calling the shots anymore. He could choose to stay in the elevator, even with that, lingering feeling.
That's incredible. Going from basically arranging his life to avoid elevators to just getting in one.
Yeah.
That's got to feel like a huge win.
It was a turning point, no doubt. And for anyone listening, if you feel like anxiety's got the controls, this shows with the right help, things can change. It's not like, poof, fear's gone, but you can learn to manage it.
Right. Like you said before, it's about rewiring those old patterns in your brain, finding a new way through. Makes you wonder what else we could shift with this approach.
It is exciting to think about, isn't it? And it just speaks volumes about the brain, how adaptable it is, this ability to heal and change. But beyond all the sciencey stuff, I think it's just empowering to think that our pasts, they don't have to have this power over us.
It's like EMR gave him the breathing room to, step back from those ingrained anxieties and just actually experience things more fully.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about pretending his past didn't happen. It's more like he learned a new way to be with it.
Exactly. And this whole idea, this ability to shift how we relate to these deep-seated patterns, it goes way beyond just, anxiety or phobias. Imagine, what if we could apply this untangling to other areas, those limiting beliefs we have, the things that keep us stuck? What could we do if we weren't held back by that?
It really makes you think about how we approach all those internal roadblocks. Like, what if we could bring that same kind of gentle processing from EMR to other challenges?
It's pretty amazing when you think about the brain's capacity for change, for growth. What if, instead of feeling like we have to analyze and relive our past to move on, what if there's another way? A way where healing is less about digging everything up and more about creating the right conditions for our minds and bodies to kind of find their own balance again.
That's a powerful thought. So if you're listening and feeling weighed down by anxiety or just, curious about this whole mind-body connection Yuval story, it offers a real sense of hope. And EMR is just one example of these alternative therapies out there, right?
Yeah.
It reminds us that there are many paths to healing, and sometimes the most effective ones, well, they're the ones we least expect.